episode 1 of The Local Game, we'll be looking at some of the highlights from 2023's Grand Finals, plus we'll be discussing some hot topics and also the national second tier and what that means for South Australian clubs, plus former Full-On Football host Nat Harrison joins us in the studio, and that's all coming up in today's episode of The Local Game. Yes, hello and welcome to the very first episode of The Local Game in South Australia. I'm your host, Johnny Keko. Looking forward to joining you every Thursday night on Keko Media YouTube, plus also Friday nights you can catch it on Channel 44 from 6 p.m. It's going to be a big year this year. Every week I'll be joined by a different co-host in the studio. This week it is one special person who has played for almost every club in South Australia. He's also played every position and now is trying to take up every position in the media. That is Marc Talbot. Thank you for joining me, mate.
Thanks for having me on this episode 1.
It's going to be a big year this year. Every week, different co-hosts, but we've got about 4 lined up for every 4 weeks. We'll see you in about a month's time. But episode 1, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to get through this every week. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about football as much as we can.
Oh, exactly, man. That's it. More coverage. Game gets out there more.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to kick off every episode with some of the hot topics in South Australian football. Well, a big topic is some players being picked up to go over to England. How good is that? There's some of the big ones in Gauchi off to Aston Villa. Your rivals, Spurs, pick up Charlie Grant as well. Stephen Hall off to Brighton, plus 2 WNPL players in Liv Bramley and Nick Calder over to the leagues over there, the women's leagues in England.
Yeah, look, it's fantastic news. I mean, the Gauchi one obviously is massive. He deserves a shot. And Stephen Hall, something that Adelaide does produce well is goalkeepers. We've got Eugene Galakovic as one of our coaches now, obviously, at Adelaide United. So great move for them. And the fact that we've got WNPL players now playing second and third division in Europe is massive.
Yeah, absolutely it is, man. I'm looking forward to seeing the how they go long term, because someone like Nick Calder has struggled to try and get into the A-League, which it is hard with the amount of spots in Australian leagues. Yeah,
that's the thing. We always struggle with the women's A-League because of the amount of spots. There's obviously not as many teams, but once you hit the European scene, and especially in England now, there's teams, they've got four divisions, plus there's more divisions below that. So it's just great for them to get over there.
And another big movement as well is South Australian football is losing Matt Mays from Football SA as a media manager, but we're gaining him in Adelaide United as a media manager there now. How huge is that for him? 7 years at the Federation, but he's done a lot for the local game, and now he's taken it to a national level with the national South Australia's only National League team.
It's great news for Matt. Unfortunately for us, we lose him. I can't say enough good things about Matt. We've worked with him for a couple of years. He's been massive for the game here and building that media coverage. So I just think he's going to smash it there at Adelaide United, and they've got a real great employee, so to speak, moving there.
Absolutely, they do, and look forward to seeing what he does at that club. He's a nice guy, lovely bloke, and you probably hate us talking about him on TV as well.
He probably will, but he's an Arsenal supporter, so he's brilliant in my books.
Well, some won't agree with that. But also, let's talk about quickly Legends match. There's been a few of them over the years, but there was one that happened in the off-season. That was the Western Strikers and Paul Peary playing against each other. You featured, put the gloves back on. What was it like to get back in goals?
It was great fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I'm glad I only do it for those special occasions, because there's no way I could do it as a week in, week out thing anymore.
Well, you managed to get an assist. That was an interesting way to get an assist as well.
It was very interesting, very painful as well. I have recovered, but if you've got footage of it, then people will understand why.
Absolutely. Well, it is playing as we're talking. I managed to catch it, and that's why I head down there, just for moments like that. Talking about a great day for viewing as well. It was a long time ago now. It feels like a long time ago now, but the grand finals last year, we had the NPL and WNPL grand finals. Both had teams in it that didn't finish top, but both exciting lead-ups to the grand finals. Unfortunately, the two games panned out differently. Let's take a quick look at the NPL grand final. LA United won 7-2. What a big win for them, but it wasn't as exciting for the viewer after the first goal went in after 8 minutes.
Yeah, it kind of went downhill a little bit for Modbury straight away. But look, if you're going to see goals, saw plenty of goals. But as a spectacle from a football match, it was pretty much done and dusted after the sort of first couple.
What do you make of the game in its entirety, though? We had Mulberry Jets, who finished 5th in the season on the ladder. Their first year back in the NPL. What do you make of them? The way they played and fought out the game as well.
Oh, look, they didn't play badly in the final at all. And I said this during the game. They played well. It's just Adelaide United, everything they touched was brilliant. And it's one of those days, unfortunately, for Mulberry that everything Adelaide did was just perfect.
They had some great goals as well. Luka Jovanovic and Yal both getting 2 goals each. They enjoyed in themselves. Also, we touched on it earlier. Stephen Hall was in the grand final, and now he's playing for an EPL club.
Yeah, well, it's brilliant news for him. I mean, what a bit of a jump from NPL to Premier League. I mean, he's gone there as a under-20 keeper, but still great move. Great move.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and also the WNPL Grand Final. If you're a lover of penalties, then you would have absolutely loved the final series in the WNPL. NTC, a little bit hard done by. They went to penalties all the way through the final series. Just couldn't get it done in the final against Salisbury Inter, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think they maybe just used up all their luck in the previous shootouts. I mean, they scored a penalty late in the 95th minute to send it to extra time. And then throughout the penalty shootout was all perfect penalties up until the last one, unfortunately, where the player didn't miss, but the goalkeeper, again, sticking up for goalkeepers here, saved it. So, but great progress for the NTC.
Absolutely. Michaela Stella did a great job with the NTC side last year. It was not to be, but it was great to see such a young development squad be able to get that far in WNPL, which they were up against some big teams like Comets and Salisbury Inter to jump over.
It's great news for the NTC because it's just a really good learning block for those young players, and hopefully they can then move on and progress.
Absolutely. And that's brings us to a quick, very short break. Do not go anywhere. We'll be back right after this as we will take a look at the state leagues. That's all to come on The Local Game. Welcome back to The Local Game for episode 1. I'm your host, Johnny Keko. We will turn our attention to the state leagues now. The state league for men's, State League 1 and State League 2 kicks off this weekend. And also the women's WSL kicks off in a few weeks' time. But let's quickly cast a quick look back at the State League 1 grand final last year as well. A big occasion and had everything in it, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. A great game to watch. Raiders come out on top over Para Hills in the end, which was great to see the celebrations. But yeah, and off the back of that, off a great year for Para Hills, Riley Stam now signed with Adelaide United.
I'm looking forward to seeing what he does at Adelaide United. It's a little bit disappointing that we won't see him playing for Para Hills this year. But he did light it up, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, he was spectacular in SL1, scored plenty of goals. But yeah, it'd be great to see him try and progress to NPL, which will be great for him.
Yes, and round 1 shaping up to be an exciting week as well of football. We've got some very good fixtures lining up. West Adelaide are back in the State League 1. They're looking to try and get back at their home ground, Kilburn. We don't know when they're going to be getting into that new facility, but they're looking to try and get it by round 4.
Yeah, they're hoping to be back in round 4. I know that works have started again in the last couple of weeks. So fingers crossed for West Adelaide, they can get their spiritual home.
And Western Strikers has taken on Fulham, who Fulham is shaping up to be a very exciting team this year under Robbie Saracino. So that's a big ask for Western Strikers. I've seen a few of their games in the off-season. It's going to be a bit of a hard year for them in the State League 1. But we do hope with clubs like Western Strikers that they're a Western Suburbs club that have been pushing hard to try and get back to their glory days. It's going to be a struggle for them this year, but hopefully they can try and redeem themselves, especially in round 1.
Yeah, look, I hope every club does well, but someone has to go down and whatnot. But I really hope they do have a good year. State
League 2 grand final last year as well. Salisbury United, you tipped them to finish lower in the league. You copped it at the end of the year. But how'd you find Matt Gaston, his year as well?
Well,
at the club?
overall, the club had a great year. They finished top in the league. They won They won the final, which deservedly so. They were the best side. Matt Gaston's great coach. He's done really well. And yes, I got hammered for putting them in still making the finals, just not finishing top. So we'll see how that goes this year. But yeah, look, Matt Gaston, great coach. The team played brilliantly, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do this year.
Well, we're going to miss them in the in State League 2, but in State League 2, round one's shaping up to be very exciting because we have the Hills Derby back again this year. The Mount Barker United got their first win over Hills Hawks in the history of the two teams competing in the same league. It's shaping up to be a very exciting year for both teams. Hills are still on that building. They're still building the club back up from where they were a few years ago. They've declined a little bit, but they got Gaz Von Duve back at the club. He had some time at Metro last year. But Mount Barker is shaping up to be an exciting team, and some people are saying finals could be on the cards this year.
Yeah, look, a lot of people are tipping them to be better than what they have been. I still don't think Barker are quite finals ready. But yeah, Hills have declined over the last few years, and hopefully they can start to rebuild that team, and hopefully a young core can help them.
Definitely. We're looking forward to seeing how that shapes up for them. And we all know Alessia Carocci will be very excited for that matchup as well. He's playing for Mount Barker United. He's also going to be a co-host on the show as well. That's a little bit of a sneak peek for the next episode. But yes, it's very exciting to see what happens in State League 2 this year. It's going to be a very exciting league. Also, WSL this year as well. Some new coaches being moved around. A new club with Western Strikers entering the league. But they're going to be taken on in their first round against Ben Dale, who is coaching South Adelaide.
Yeah, so he's taken over the South Adelaide women's first team. Dan Milanovic was there last year. He's now moved to Comets in the WNPL. So Ben's jumped in, and yeah, it'll be a great season for them. And hopefully they get. They've been really close the last few years, so hopefully they can take that next step.
Absolutely. Well, there's a little bit of wait for the WSL and the WNPL. That's happening in a few weeks' time. But we'll talk a lot more about the WSL and WNPL as the weeks get closer to round one. I hate when there's a little bit of a wait between the two leagues. I just want all football back at once. But that's very exciting to see how that the league shapes up this year. But we got heaps to talk about still in the local game. Coming up next is Nat Harrison joining us in the studio. But first, before that, we'll get to a sneak peek of some of the players, what they do for full-time work in the NPL.
I'm a painter, work for myself.
I'm a physiotherapist. It kind of was something I always knew I wanted to do when I was younger, like experiencing injuries. So I just was always in a physio clinic from a young age. So I thought, this is a good job. You can chat to people and help people with their injuries. So I decided to go down that path and haven't looked back.
My job, currently still studying exercise physiology. My full-time job is a teacher.
So I'm managing director of Macron Sportswear in Adelaide.
I'm a builder with my parents. I'm a building supervisor, and then I spend a bit of time in the office as well.
Just flexible hours, I can working for yourself. You can just be, if I've got a game, I can work half a day and get myself ready for that. So I'm very, independent on what hours I want to do, really.
I get to talk to different people every day. So it's not mundane. There's a new story coming through the door, and the ability to help people, I think I really enjoy that as a rewarding aspect of my job.
I really love the aspect of helping people and making a difference to people's lives based on their goals.
Just being involved in football. Originally started as a customer of Macron, and I definitely got excited about having a new kit every season with my futsal club, and now I get to run that process with all the sporting clubs here in Adelaide.
I love just going to see the kids every day and helping them learn, and then also working with the families as well to get the best out of their child.
Working with my family. Yeah, great relationship. Get to spend a lot more time with them, and I find it really, really enjoyable.
There's a bit of an insight into our players in the NPL and their full-time jobs. Well, we'll have more of those as the weeks go on. But now we are joined in the studio by some football royalty. Nat Harrison, former host of Full On Football, as most of you know her in the football world. Nat Adamopoulos, thank you for joining me, Nat.
Oh, nice to be here. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you in the studio for the first episode. You used to have a football show, Full On Football. I think most of our viewers will remember it fondly. It's still on YouTube as well. Some great moments in the years. Tell us a little, what was it like to host a show back in the day as well?
Oh, it was fantastic because it's a bit like what you're doing. It's one thing seeing players cross the line and play a game, but it's another thing actually getting up close and personal, meeting them, finding out about their life, their families, etc. So it is really interesting, and you get to find out a lot about players that you normally wouldn't know. So and as well promoting the game. So grassroots football, that's what we want to promote.
Back in those days, games weren't broadcast live like we have now. We've got the privilege of watching on YouTube this season. But back then, you had to go out and record games yourself just to have footage for your TV show.
Absolutely. So I guess at the height of my filming, I would do Friday night at Jet Park, which is now Smith Stadium, Saturday games, then a Saturday night game, then a Sunday game might be at Metro Stars, and then the Monday night games, which were Adelaide City. So all up, I think I recorded over the 4 years about 300 games, some of them which have not seen the light of day. I've got one, South Australia against Western Australia, which I'd love to dig out and actually get that up on YouTube because there's some brilliant players and it was a fantastic game.
I'm sure you have some gold there in your catalogue as well from those years that you've recorded. I know you've recorded some of the Mark stuff as well.
Yeah, Portline and Olympic. So two of, as Johnny alluded to earlier, two of many of my clubs. It was only 7.
Just. Did you cover all the positions he played in as well? Because you covered a lot.
Oh, I've played in every position on the park, so
there you go,
it would have certainly been around the place.
You managed to interview a lot. What were some of the memories that you fondly look back on now?
Oh my goodness, there are so many memories. But just thinking back, we had some really big international stars that came out. There was the coach of all the world coaches, Horst Vine, and he did a 3-day coaching academy here in South Australia down at Santos Stadium, and I was able to interview him. He granted me some time, and he was brilliant because he's coached people from AC Milan, from Real Madrid, from the EPL, from all across Italy and Spain. Wow. Yeah, so it was fantastic. I guess one of the good shows we had was the Keepers Show with Ben Moore, Dan Godley, Leo Trimboli, and also there was a Frank, he was a young player. I forget his last name, but yeah, brilliant. We got into a spot of bother because we started talking about gloves. They're all different ones, sizes, shapes, and all that sort of thing. So it was hilarious.
That's incredible. Well, I'm sure you've had some incredible stories during that time, and you can always look back on them on Full On Football as well.
Oh, definitely. I don't have all the shows up on the YouTube as yet, but I hope to get them all up so people can have a look at them and see what we did.
You're not going to go anywhere because we could talk to you all day. You can also check out Kicking It Local kicks off on the 28th of February. Nat will be on there with me. I'll be talking more in depth about her story. She's got many, many more to share. Don't worry about that. And, she's going to stay around for the rest of the show as well. We got to talk about the preview of the round 1 fixtures and NST. We're going to discuss that a little bit in depth as well. All to come on The Local Game. Welcome back to The Local Game. We are very close to finishing episode 1, but there's still a lot more to get through in this episode. I'm still joined by Marc Talbot and Nat Harrison in the studio. We're going to talk a lot more about football. There's heaps to get through, and round 1 for NPL is this weekend. But first, we're going to look at round 1 for WNPL. Still a little bit of a wait before the league kicks off this year. But it's a very exciting year for women's football off the back of Women's World Cup last year. How exciting round 1 in a few weeks' time is it going to be for the women to get back out there playing that?
Yeah, obviously it is a little while away, but once they get up and running, it'll be great to see the women out on the pitches and playing the games. It'd be great.
Yeah, well, we had two incredible teams last year. Salisbury Inter won the league. Comets won the league, and Salisbury won the grand final in the end of it. But both with new coaches this year. How do you think they're going to both play out this year, Mark?
Yeah, look, it's going to be quite interesting. Obviously, both clubs have moved their coaches on, 2 new coaches in for each side. And I know Dan has gone into Comet, so that'd be a big jump for him going from the State League into the WNPL. So it'd be interesting to see how that pans out.
Well, we'll talk more about that as the weeks come by, because there's still another 3 weeks to play out before we see round 1. Ali Atkins from Adelaide City will be joining me if all goes well, will be joining me in the studio to break all that down as well. But the men's league as well kicks off this weekend. It's going to be big. Well, there's 2 things to look forward to. Well, there's actually 6 things, all 6 games to look forward to, but 2 that I'm very much looking forward to. And the first one is Friday night, Marlborough Jets, Para Hills Knights. A big rivalry, Nat. You would remember that back in the good old days.
Yep.
What's that mean for South Australian football to have it back in the top tier?
Look, kicking off Friday nights at Marlborough Jets. We used to be Jet Park, is now Smith Stadium. Awesome, great way to be. Look, they're just so passionate over there. And the big rivalry between Para Hills Knights and Marlborough Jets, that's gone back years and years. They're not going to be, going easy on each other. They will be playing hard. And obviously to get the first 4 points for the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. I love a little fierce rivalry. We've also got the other rivalry, Croatia Raiders and FK Belgrade later. I think round 7, that's going to be. Oh, no, I'm excited. But this weekend, Mark, what do you think? You played in that rivalry. What's it mean to you to see Para Hills taking on Modbury?
Oh, look, it is a great rivalry. It's a typical English rivalry, which is what we want to see as well. Obviously, we've got the Italian rivalries, we've got the Greek rivalries. So it's good to have that English one back in the top flight. And Friday nights at Modbury back in the day were brilliant. So hopefully they can recapture that essence of what they used to have.
Definitely. And Saturday is the big one as well. The first game, that's going to be a double header with the A-League. LA United Youth taking on Campbelltown City, and that's before LA United and Western Sydney Wanderers take it on in the A-League. That's going to be a massive game. Mark, you and me are going to be commentating that match. Excited?
Oh, yeah, very much so. Very much so. I'm really just wanting to meet the commentary team from the A-League. And,
if they're there.
Yeah, if they're there. I think match of the round, they might be there. So hopefully we get a Simon Hill. It'd be just great to meet him and have a chat.
It would be. He's a very nice guy, so I hope he is there. Nat, this is not the first time you filmed. We're not going to be filming this time, but you filmed at Coopers in the past. What was it like to be at Coopers and now see games played back there since the grand final's been moved to Service FM?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Obviously, you want to see progression and you want to see, things moving up. I filmed many a game there, especially when we had the triple headers on the grand final days.
Yep.
Super League, State League and Premier League. So I would be there for like 12 hours in a day filming, and it was ridiculous. Can I just say that? So, yeah, no, it'll be good. It'll be good. Campbelltown City, you got 3 brilliant football brains there in the coaching department of Michael Petriciani, Brenton Hearn and Corey Artoni. Yeah. I mean, wow, what a lineup for coaching. So
he's pulled the big guns in.
Hasn't he just?
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be amazing to see what they could come up with, because not only were they magnificent players in their days, but, they can set things up and they've got the brains of how to do things, and see how they go against the Adelaide United Youth.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to seeing how they go. I'm tipping them to win the league this year at Campbelltown. So it's going to be an exciting game to watch at Coopers. Make sure you head down early if you are going for the A-League and support your local football. And talking about national football as well, quickly we'll break down the NST. That's the National Second Tier, which is meant to kick off in 2025. South Australian football was hoping to get a team in there. I think Adelaide City were the last standing, but they've gone ahead with 8 teams from Victoria, New South Wales, and 4 more still to come prior to 2025 if all goes well. What do you two make of this new NST, and at this early stages not having any South Australian teams in it? What do you think that's going to do for South Australian football?
Look, I think it's a shame, but we always knew it was going to be Eastern Seaboard, unfortunately, because purely just on logistics. It's easier to get a team from Melbourne to Sydney than it is from Adelaide to Sydney and Melbourne. So for me, it's disappointing, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and you look at the lineup that they've already got. These are big name clubs. You've got Marconi, you've got South Melbourne, Sydney Olympic, Sydney United, big names that have been around since the 50s and 60s. And then you've got the Wollongong Wolves, which have been in every league basically. And also the other one is Avondale Football Club. So they were established in the 80s. So it is a pity there's no Adelaide teams there yet or South Australian teams yet, but there's hope for the future. It builds. Yep. You have to fill criteria, and that's the thing is, do they have the all the information that they need to fill that criteria?
It's going to be good for South Australian footballers as well. We may see a few of them move into state. We've seen Dom Costanzo, who was in South Australia training, hoping to get into the A-League, but has gone back to Marconi. Temakovsky's gone with him. They've both teamed up together to score a goal in that first round as well. How cool is that?
Yeah, look, it's great for SA football again. And like I said, we've got more players that have already moved. We had one lad from Cobras, got another one from Salisbury. So we're going to see players leave, unfortunately.
It is going to be a shame, but more opportunities, better for football in Australia as a whole. So looking forward to seeing how that pans out. We've almost run out of time to talk about any more stories, but that's why I've enlisted Antonis Pagonis from Front Page Football to give us the headlines we've missed out. And that's why we've introduced this brand new segment.
Definitely pressed for time today, Johnny. Someone that seemingly never is, Fabian Barbiero, who will be captaining Metro Stars the year he turns 40. Pretty crazy. Some other pretty crazy things. 14 and 15 goal scorers in the first round of the Cup. WMPL champions and premiers change coaches, and don't get me started in Adelaide City Council and Ellis Park. Get it sorted.
Thanks, Antonis, for all those headlines. And unfortunately, that's a wrap on our first episode of The Local Game. I'm your host, Johnny Keko. I'll be joining you every single week. I'll have a different co-host next week. Mark will be joining me in about a month's time. Yep. I'm looking forward to having him back in the studio. And Nat, it's an absolute pleasure to have you in the studio for episode 1 as well. I think everyone at home would have enjoyed the stories that you shared.
No problem. It's been a pleasure myself. Thank you very much.
And you can catch more of those stories of Nat in Kicking It Local podcast on Spotify, which will come out on the 28th of February to kick off 2024 season. It's going to be huge. Looking forward to you joining us every single week. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you all next week.